Hello everyone, fourth year. You know that your subject is 20th century novel. I already talked about some features or characteristics of 20th century novel. We already mentioned about 10 features. Now let us start with the 11th one, which is that the modern novel is a psychological. Under the influence of new psychological theories, life is not regarded as a continuous flow, but as a series of separate successive moments. The modern novel is predominantly psychological. Oedipus, to the influence, we can say the novelists like Henry James, Joseph Conrad, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf have made the English novel extremely psychological in nature. In Sons and Lovers, while depicting Paul's relation with his mother, D.H. Lawrence abundantly uses Oedipus complex. You know that Oedipus complex is a term Sigmund Freud used in his theory of psychosexual stages of development. Most of the 20th century novels have psychological aspects. So we can say that most of them are psychological novels. One more aspect of the 20th century, we can say that the stream of consciousness is also psychological. Stream of consciousness, we can say, or interior monologue. Sometimes we call it the stream consciousness or the interior monologue. So another unique feature of 20th century fiction is the presentation of unconscious mind as against portrayal of conscious activities in Victorian novels. They revealed that human consciousness has very deep layers, and buried under the conscious are the subconscious and the unconsciousness or the unconscious. With this experimentation in literary form, the phrase stream of consciousness found its way into literary criticism. It is defined as a representation of continuous flow of sense perceptions, thoughts, feelings, memories in the human mind, usually in a disjointed form of interior monologue. To elucidate that the stream of consciousness is the subject matter, while the interior monologues is a technique of presenting it. In attempt to defend this technique, Virginia Woolf in The Common Readers says that life is not a series of giglams systematically or symmetrically arranged. Life is a luminous halo, a semi-transparent envelope surrounding us from the beginning of consciousness to the end. So that in Virginia Woolf, which is who coined this term, stream of consciousness, in Virginia Woolf's novel, plot has become only a minor element. So the plot, the actions has very, so the events, it doesn't matter in the, in terms of the novels of Virginia Woolf. So the plot or the series of events has become only a minor element in the novel. Mrs. Dalloway, Virginia Woolf plays upon the stream of consciousness while emphasizing the uniqueness of the characters, creating a web of connection between them. She subtly probed the thoughts of the title character and her friends on one day in London, giving her readers a remarkable insight into the mental actions and reactions of upper-class Londoners. That these novels, especially Virginia Woolf novels, are basically a series of interior monologues or inner soliloquies. Although she was a bold stylistic pioneer, Woolf was never popular with the reading public. She exerted a major influence on the writers that followed. For example, James Joyce expanded the technique of interior monologue to a true stream of consciousness, recognizing that thoughts in our minds jump at random from one idea to another with extraordinary speed. He attempts faithfully to produce the inner consciousness and sometimes the unconsciousness of his character's mind. Joyce early works, Dubliner and a portrait of the artist as a young man, were vaguely autobiographical and conventionally organized. James Joyce's novel Ulysses don't give us an excess thoughts of its character, but also presents each chapter in the style of a different writer and work. This novel is a whole delta of stream of consciousness. So this is the one of the most important feature of the 20th century is the stream. We can say the stream of consciousness. Also, we have the sexual freedom, one of the features, the number 13. The sexual freedom, the realism of the modern novel is nowhere seen to better advantage than the treatment of sex. The novel has entirely broken from the Victorian inhibition of sex. There is a frank and straightness or free, we can say, treatment of the problems of love, sex, marriage. So there is no hypocrisy like the Victorian age. Now the 20th century age, we can say the hypocrisy of the Victorian age. Now they are frank, straight, say don't hide something and showing or exhibiting something else. So they are straight, frank, and free in their treatment with the problems of sex and love and marriage. One more aspect is it implies the 20th century. It implies literary revolutions and uprising. That the 20th century was a time not only for revolutionary scientific and philosophical theories. It was also a time for literal revolutions and uprisings. In Russia, for example, Tsar Nicholas was a weak and ineffective leader. His government was corrupt, and Russian soldiers fighting in the Second World War were unprepared and died in large number. So we can say that there are the attack or the criticizing of Tolstoy. In good of old USA, the woman we had say the woman here suffering caught on like a wildfire. The movement around the world, the working classes formed labor unions after 1911. A triangle, shirtwaist fire called the public's attention to the need for reform. Ernest Hemingway went to Spain to cover the Spanish Civil War as a journalist and ended up writing one of his most famous novels. Joyce also was an Irish novelist. One more feature also that the treatment of nature. So the 20th century novels explore and expose the shift that characterize the turn of the 19th century and 20th centuries. This new movement put emphasis on the importance of the observation of the living creatures in their environment. So this treatment of the environment impacted by G.H. Wells' Science of Life. It appears in Virginia Woolf's novels. The connection between 20th century and the 19th century, 20th century. The depiction of arts and science is conceived as the objectives of many writers within the field of literature. So we can say that the D.H. for example, D.H. Lawrence has a special treatment with the nature. So they deal with the nature as description with highlighted the making the allegory between the nature and the sexual energy, and to provoke moral code of his time and its repression. So these are the features of 20th century, and we have also some 20th century novelists. We have George Orwell, also one of the prominent novelists of this era of 20th century. He is one of the most important. We can't say the prominent. We can't say the major novelist of this era or the 20th century period. He was an English novelist, a journalist whose allegorical novel, Animal Farm, become a household name. He depicts the need for social justice and opposition to the totalitarianism and the belief in democratic socialism in his works. His work also is marked by clarity, intelligence, and wit. Also, we have E.M. Forster. Forster. Also educated, he is a novelist and a critic. Angels, where angels fear to treat. 1905, A Room with a View. 1908, Howard's End. 1911, his novel on homosexuality was not published until his after death. Also, we have D.H. Lawrence, Sons and Lovers, in his works, Rainbow and Women in Love. These works focus on social life of the lower and middle classes and the personal lives of those who couldn't adapt to the social norms of his time. Lawrence tried to explore human emotions more deeply than his contemporaries and challenge the boundaries of the acceptable treatment of sexual issues in the novel, as exemplified notably in Lady Chatterley Lovers. Another novelist here, Virginia Woolf, also is an influential feminist. She's acclaimed to the innovator, we can say inventor, or the person or the woman who coined the term or the technique, the stream of consciousness technique. Her novels include Mrs. Dalloway, 1925. To the Lighthouse, 1927, Orlando, etc. She is also known for her famous dictum. Now, also another, the James Joyce also is an author. He entails a new kind of storytelling and experience with the language to create a kind of writing unlike anything that he had been seen before. Also, we have William Golding, also another English novelist, Nobel laureate, whose allegorical novel Lord of the Flies in 1954 presents man as being responsible for the evil that plagues humanity. He uses as an example of a group of British schoolboys. So he is, we can say that the era or the 20th century shows external factors like his isolation, alienation, tension, writing between the popular and mysterious, the world wars, the influence of Sigmund Freud's theory, thoughts about culture. These are the clues, or are the context and the clues in understanding this era. Meanwhile, these factors influence many greatest authors to write works are mostly confusing but rich in terms of their intention. The writers of 20th century broke with the traditional issues of the Victorian novel related to storytelling and entertainment and focused on individuals and their daily dilemmas, developing propaganda and social concerns. Thank you so much for your listening, and this is the the end of my lecture. In this lecture I talked about the features and the definition of the novel, and the features and the major or the most we can say most important, or we can say the major features or characteristics of the 20th century novel. Thank you so much and good luck.